Thank you and welcome to Disavowed Podcast. And this evening with me, I have Stephen Baldassari. Stephen is with an organization, American Patriots for God and Country. He's also the owner of American Patriots Apparel. He's formed national rallies in support of Lavoy Finicum and the Bundys and given speeches at multiple events across the country and can frequently be seen giving an earful to the corrupt elements of society. Most of the time, these corrupt elements come from the left, but Stephen does not discriminate and frequently bashes the right if they are doing wrong also. Thank you and welcome, Stephen. You have been disavowed, my friend. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what do you do?
Well, first off, I'd like to start off by just thanking you, Bebo, for having me on the show. We've been talking for a couple weeks. Finally got a chance to come on. So, yeah, that was a good intro. Thank you for that as well. My name is Steve Baldassari, and I do own American Patriots for God and Country. It was my social media presence before I got banned from everywhere that basically existed. But I still own American Patriots Apparel, which is AmericanPatriotsApparel.com. Yeah, I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head with that intro, so I don't need to talk about myself too much.
All right. So we're just going to get into the politics a little bit. So
all right.
When did you first get interested or involved in grassroots politics?
Well, I grew up with some liberal friends in a liberal place of Massachusetts. And, I actually had a lot of liberal friends. And then you get older and politics gets to be more of a forefront issue as, you become more aware of your surroundings and everything isn't about just, say, partying in high school or having fun only. And when I got to that age, probably around, 2010-ish, which, was 10 years after high school, but it started earlier than that. It started, when I was in high school and when George W. Bush was president and the left started bashing on George W. Bush. So I started paying attention and I realized that a lot of the reason why they bashed the guy, not that everybody thinks he's the best, but it was because he's a Christian, so I was a Christian and I still am. And so I took that kind of personally because, you got to stand up for what's right and the people who are doing so. And that started it for me. As I got a little bit older and Barack Obama became president the first time, I was like, wow, this is really bad. This guy is a communist. He's a Muslim terrorist. He has some really sinister agenda items that he's pushing through and going to push through. And, I just paid attention a lot at that point. And I just was really, scared and worried and obviously just concerned about the country and the direction it was headed. It wasn't until the second term that I really knew that I had to do something more and get out there. So around 2013 is when I put the pedal to the metal.
All right. So when was the first time you got involved in any type of grassroots organizing and stuff like that? I seen you spoke at was it the first more or the second?
I was at the first free speech rally in Boston. I spoke at the second one. I wanted to go to the third, but I was in the process of getting fired from Santander Bank for being a Christian conservative American patriot. And, I was going to Second Amendment rallies in Boston. I would go to anti-Sharia law rallies. And because of my YouTube presence and me being a passionate guy and just kind of not holding back, I got somewhat of a name for myself. And I also, when I saw what was going on with the Bundys and the Finicums and how much the federal government under Obama was sinister, and infringing on their rights and our rights, and I didn't like it. So I decided I was going to do something about it. You know, they were on the other side of the country, so I was just online with this girl from Arizona, and we just talked, and we're like, you know what, we got to do something. So we got together, complete strangers, different sides of the country, this girl Jessica, and we formed the national rallies in support of the Bundys and Finnecums. And we had them going in about 40 something out of 50 states. And, you know, that's when I started to realize that there was a lot of drama in the conservative movement that was kind of getting in the way of things. And some of that, I think, is by design when you have infiltrators. Right. But that's when I really started getting a name for myself, when I really started getting involved.
So you touched on your work. So what initially happened at work? When was the first time your work either came to you about your political views, or when you realized there was a problem?
So I worked at Santander Bank for 6 years in multiple jobs. I pretty much got a bonus and a raise every year. So things were chugging along well. My newest job was a better job. It was better paying. It was running the commercial credit card department as a one-man ops team, essentially. I did report to a manager and a director and who report to other people, but they never even were involved, and they kind of wanted it that way. So as I got that job and I had some business meetings, politics came up, and I found that the liberal left always got to talk about what they wanted to talk about, yet when I had something to say, you know, obviously they didn't like it, but that wasn't the real thing. That got some people's attention to stalk me on Facebook and to pay attention to what I was doing on, you know, in the public square. So that was probably around, I don't know, 2000, maybe 16 or 15, where they first started really paying attention to me. And what, go ahead. Sorry.
So initially, did they come to you and say to you like there was a problem, or how did you first become aware that this was an issue?
Yeah, they came to me. They had a meeting with HR, and I was like dumbfounded by it. I couldn't believe what was going on. And they said, we have reports you said like this on Facebook, or that, and or like there was 2 separate events that you said something in the office. One of them made up a story, said that I said there should be more white people in America because they're pushing the fake news narrative of white supremacy. So they just make up their own news, pretend I said something I never said, and take everything out of context. So that really, that coupled with this girl who was a Muslim who worked near me, who right off the bat, because I was a Christian, was going to try to ruin me, that all kind of got together to try to bring me down.
All right. So after that, how did they? Because you told me that they ended up having a meeting with you, and they said something like they tried to coach you, right?
Oh yeah. So after everything was said and done, they did investigations on that stuff, the first couple of incidents with HR. And when they did, they found me innocent because I was innocent, so there was nothing to find. And so despite that, and me having still a perfect record, you know, on my job, having 6 years of being there and getting promoted twice and getting bonuses and raises every year and doing a wonderful job of forming this commercial card ops department, eventually, you know, there was something that happened on LinkedIn, because I was against homosexuality. I still am as a Christian, you know, and that's just what the Bible teaches. It's not hateful. Doesn't mean you hate people, but you have to love them enough to tell them the truth about what they do wrong. I'm as equally hard on myself if I'm doing things wrong. And so there was this issue where they had told me they didn't like something I said on Facebook that was against homosexuality. I'm very blunt and to the point, so I don't hold back. And instead of like saying only that I'm against homosexuality because of the Bible, I said some things, you know, that was like that
not
all they do is
correct.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
No,
I
did you use foul language?
No, I didn't use foul language, but they would consider it foul. You know, they would consider it hate speech. I thought it was great speech. I basically said that homosexuals spread STDs, they get a lot of hemorrhoids, and they're perverted, you know, something along those lines. I can't remember word for word, but that's what it was. And I talked about I'm sick of them promoting gay butthole sex. So
at some point you had to realize like, hey, I'm either gonna have to tone it down or I'm going to probably lose my job.
Well,
Did you
Well, of
not?
course, but that's the whole point. Is I'm sitting here going to free speech rallies, First Amendment rallies, Second Amendment rallies, anti-Sharia law rallies. How am I going to tone it down and self-censor? And that's a big problem that we have right now on YouTube and a lot of social media. You see all these people just self-censoring to keep their channels. Oh, I can't say this anymore. You've already lost. You've lost your freedom. Don't you get that? You have to make it so you can still speak freely on their platforms and fight for that right. You ever heard the expression, fight for your rights, America? It's like a lost art these days.
Yeah, well, in my opinion, a lot of times you lose the second that like you even have to think about what you're going to say, right? Like,
Precisely.
you know, uh, in the liberal society and the PC culture that we've created, we actually have a society now where like words are worse than actions. For example, like I use this example all the time. Like, if someone goes, let's say a child molester goes to prison, right? And let's say he serves 15 years in prison. When he gets out, they will set him up in a halfway house, right? More than likely, they will try to find him a job. There is programs out here in our society that is set up to find felons jobs, right? But yet they want to fire conservatives for their viewpoints, and their words basically. But a child molester gets out of prison, and these people will say something like, "He served his debt to society." Everyone deserves a second chance.
Well, now they're promoting pedophilia as being just like nothing wrong with you. It's just your choice to like, and everybody can love anything. You can love your dog, your cat, the neighborhood mouse or whatever. You can identify as any of those things as well too, and they can say all that nonsense, pretend that they're paying attention to science and ignoring science and biology, and talk about all these multiple genders. But in reality, there's two. In reality, all the stuff they're saying is what's wrong, not what we're saying.
Well, what's amazing is that they are also thought as the ones that are on the side of science, right? They are completely controlling the narrative, right? They have all the institutions, right? They have the money. This idea that the conservatives are the rich corporate Republicans, right? That used to be the idea. Like I told you earlier when we were talking behind scenes, I was taught to be a Democrat because I was from a working class family, right? You're poor, you're a Democrat. Well, that's completely false now. You look at almost all the billionaires across the board in our country, they're liberal Democrats.
Right. Well, they would argue that it's because of their programs and because of the things they've been doing, like censoring us and tearing us down to build themselves up. But of course, isn't that always the way they do it? They tear people down to build themselves up. They don't work for it. They have to pull these cheap, lame, dirty moves and destroy you and your life for no reason, even though you're right. And they just didn't want to take initiative. I didn't come from a lot of money, if any. There was years when my family got letters saying that we were legally poor. And I took loans. I paid my school debt off only to go and get a job and be fired and now be denied unemployment and be blacklisted when I have nearly an 800 credit score despite having no money coming in. So I don't have any criminal record. And, model type of American citizen. What about our dreams? What about that? Meanwhile, and I don't even accept unemployment here in Florida. I don't even apply for food stamps or anything, and I'm broke. I barely eat. Okay, I'm like dizzy right now from it a little, to be honest with you. But
I'm sorry to hear that, man. But that's dude. But you also got to realize economically, we're having right now is not a good time for a lot of people, not only conservatives. Like it's abysmal out here. They've literally destroyed this country. But that's a part of the program. See, they want us so poor to where we have to depend on them. They want us to come sniveling and begging them for peanuts. Yeah, you know, if you've watched, this is literally the biggest transfer of wealth in the history of our nation. The billionaires and I
The
read
billionaires.
yeah, they've added something like 1.9 trillion dollars of wealth, like the 50 richest billionaires in our country. You know, that's what people don't realize. The left will sit here and tell you about communism, right? They want communism. They're not even ashamed of it, right? They wear being a communist as like a badge of honor now. Right?
Well, they're very transparent with their views for sure. They're not hiding it anymore. They're very arrogant. They're very evil, and so evil isn't really disguising itself anymore because it doesn't have to, because it's been allowed to take over. You know, there's the old saying that all it takes for evil to succeed is for good men to do nothing, and that's what's been going on. You know, you have a lot of excuse makers, a lot of YouTube creators, a lot of people who talk a big talk, but then when you want to actually get people assembled to really stop this madness, because the system is corrupt, the government is corrupt, the FBI is corrupt, the DOJ is corrupt, you know, and that they just took the petitions off the government website, off the White House website.
Well, look at, for example, I got my 1776,
nice.
Right?
There you go.
Prior to the election, everyone was online on the right talking, but they were talking 1776 like every
That's
day
what I mean.
online, right?
Exactly, brother.
Now after the election, all of a sudden, even people on the right they're talking this unity. We need unity, right?
There's a bunch of brain dead dingbats. I hate to say it, and that's coming from a Christian guy who's not really supposed to say those kind of things, because I just can't say anything else anymore. There's a certain point in time, you know, these words have meanings, and I say this, and my father gets mad at me when I say this kind of thing, but you know, I say, Dad, the words have meaning. Look them up in a dictionary. They're very applicable. You know, you call a spade a spade. That's what you taught me, right, Dad? And that's what a lot of our parents taught us, you know, and now it's like you have to self-censor. You can't say that. Or, you know, it's not like we're trying to hurt people. It's like we're trying to wake them up and make them realize the error of their way. The Bible said in the end times there's going to be a lot of people that will be always hearing the truth but never really coming to the realization thereof. And that's exactly what's happening.
What people need to realize is that the most oppressive governments throughout history have came through in the name of unity, right? You know, there's always these people believe that there's this boogeyman, right? And they believe if they got rid of Donald Trump, we were going to have some type of, you know, magical peace, right? Not you see it even with Rush Limbaugh the other day when he passed. I'm so glad Rush Limbaugh died. You know, he's in hell, right? You know, and then I seen this one lady post on the New York Post's Facebook page. Oh, my husband used to listen to Rush, and this brings a tear to my eye. And then this liberal comes on here with his liberal tolerance and tells this old lady that I hope you join your husband soon, because you're a whore. You're what's wrong with the world. You're an evil, you know, bigot.
Exactly.
Telling an old
Well,
lady.
I got a couple things I could say about all that. And, you know, first thing is they disguise conformity as unity. They put that label over it and make it sound wonderful. They love doing that. Like the Affordable Care Act. Was that affordable? No. Right. Did they care? No. Did they care? They just mandate health care. And, you know, everything they do is a big deception, okay? And they think we're stupid. And you know what? This is what I was saying. The problem with our society is a lot of people are stupid now. And that's all by design, because, you know, they just get indoctrinated by the school systems. They're taught stuff that's wrong is right and vice versa. And so they come out of school thinking they're these brainiacs, and then we try to wake them up and it's impossible. We try to hit them with facts, and then they try to coach you. To your point earlier, that's what they did when I was getting fired on the phone, because they didn't even have me in person to do it. They said, we tried to coach you. And I said, hold up right there. I told them, I said, don't you talk to me like that. I said, you mean you tried to indoctrinate me? You tried to make me submit. That's what you tried to make me do. And I wouldn't comply. And so now you're trying to flex muscle at me. That's what you're doing. But of course, you're weak in reality, because if you were strong, you'd be able to tolerate this. But you have a low tolerance. You can't tolerate it.
Well, see, what they love, though, is the right winger that will capitulate.
Oh, of course.
If you take the knee, they will use you as the shining example of the reformed.
It's a badge on their chest, man. Yeah.
They love it. They love it. They might have, if you would have took the knee, they might have promoted you even higher. That's
a good point. If I sold my soul to the devil, then of course a lot of material things would come my way. I would be a blessing. But instead, my family thinks I'm now unsuccessful. I'm a bum. I'm worthless. And I'm like telling them, I'm like, do you realize I started a business and it's profitable? I'd never started a business before. You know how hard that is in itself? I'm like, do you realize that I'm one of the few people who's standing? You know, these people like Mo, he thinks that to be established or to be relevant in the world, that you have to be relevant by people's standards, by the world's standards. Okay, relevance isn't established through the world's standards. It's established through God's standards. So I'm not saying I'm perfect or that everything I do is perfectly done. But what I'm saying is there is a right and wrong way of doing things, and there is a higher power. And so that's where your relevance comes from whatever he commands, whatever he gives you instruction to do in life, you know, like not selling your soul to the devil. And all these people are doing is doing that in one way or another. Oh, I got a family to support. I have to keep my job. I want money, you know, yada, yada, yada. And that's what happens.
Well, here's a prime example. I had a debate about a week ago with a gentleman. And during the debate, see, I believe that essentially that while the framework of the Constitution is there, I believe that structurally it's basically broken, right? I believe that people's constitutional rights are being violated by the day, and they're slowly whittling them away, right? To the point where you can't realize it, right? Or you don't realize it. Okay. Now, during this debate, this gentleman says to me, and a lot of people didn't even catch it. He says to me, what we need to do is get back to constitutional government, right?
I would agree with that.
Okay. But if you're admitting we have to get back to constitutional government,
right.
What's that mean?
We're not there now. We've drifted away naturally.
So in the middle of this debate, I jokingly say to him, well, there you have it. We just have to get back to constitutional government. Right. And so the audience, they're so naive and inept, really. Right?
They took his side or something. They started to fight over to what?
Oh, look at Bebo. He's supporting constitutional government, right? I support constitutional government, right?
Right.
To me, this is my view on the Constitution. It's like having a Lamborghini with no engine inside.
There you go.
Yeah, sure, I would love to drive a Lamborghini if it's running and working. You get what I'm saying?
The Constitution, it's a wonderful thing, like a Lamborghini. But if the engine isn't spinning, then it's not going to go anywhere, and it's not going to build that traction to make you be what you need to be and
Give
go
me
where
an
you need to go.
Impala if that's wrong.
Sure.
I'd rather have that.
Right. And well, the thing is that's why I don't think the Constitution or the constitutional republic system of government, right, is broken. I mean, I don't think you do either. I think what you're saying is that we're not living in that country anymore. That's the whole problem. And so, maybe you guys are basically talking one and the same thing there, because
I believe they've subverted the Constitution. They've slowly but surely whittled away our rights, and they're going to try to use the Constitution as a way to take your rights.
That's exactly right, and that's unconstitutional because they're manipulative, they're dishonest, they have these corrupt people they've appointed as judges, and even the conservative judges are a bunch of soft pansies, for lack of a better term. Okay, they're turncoats. I mean, they can't be trusted. That's been proven by what just happened, where they allow Joe Biden and communist China and all these crooked voting machines to fix our elections and take over this country. And they, over semantics, over Texas didn't submit this thing right. So you care about this little thing where maybe Texas supposedly doesn't have the right to give a care, or it doesn't impact them if some other states election is flawed. But it's a national election. How does that not impact Texas? National elections impact everybody.
Right.
You know, it determines who's president over everybody in the country. So that's a stupid argument. And they whip that garbage out, and then they throw the law around, like you're saying, and they use it as a weapon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas they could be just actually investigating these criminals if they really cared about the law. You know how many crimes these people have committed? I mean, the pedophilia, I mean, the treason, the security issues with Hillary Clinton, you know, these people who don't even care when our people are left to die in Benghazi.
Well, even look at just the censorship and the ostracizing of right-wingers. For example, I interviewed almost 1 year ago to the date Nick Oakes. I don't know if you're familiar who Nick Oakes is.
I don't know Nick, no.
He was a Proud Boy that got arrested for being at the Capitol on January 6th.
Okay.
Almost 1 year to that date, I interviewed him where he, similar to you, lost his job at CPAC. He was working for CPAC.
For CPAC, that's what I'm talking about.
And he lost his job for being a
How infuriating is that? Wow, dude.
Our own side ostracized.
And this is the point. I don't mean to interrupt you, but this is exactly what you were getting at before, okay? When you were talking about 1776 and showing me the shirt that you're wearing. This is what conservatives have been doing. They've talked the talk about, oh, we're going to do this and we have to do this or else. And then when some people in a disorganized fashion go there and then they're infiltrated by Antifa, and Antifa was doing it too, to make them look bad and blame it all on the Patriots. But who cares about all that? That's all nonsense is my point. You have to, this is what my theory was on what we should have done. We should have had it be more organized. We should have all gone there with our guns. Now, if anyone knows how to practice gun safety, when you have a gun, you don't walk around and just point it at people. You don't even point it at yourself, okay? You have your guns because you have the right. This whole thing of giving them an inch, you know, it led to them taking a mile. So first it was concealed carry, you know, and now it's like, well, you can only do that if we say so. When really we're supposed to have constitutional carry everywhere. That's why it's called constitutional carry, because the Constitution says shall not be infringed, and yet they infringe. So the point is if we're really going to be free, then let's be free. Let's exercise our rights, and if anyone tries to arrest us, we got to have people that will place them under citizen's arrest for infringing on our rights and say, listen, no. It's quite obvious what the wording of this Second Amendment here says. I mean, shall not be infringed. How difficult is that to understand? So anyway, we go to the Capitol is what we should have done with our guns pointed down and everybody's armed, because otherwise you're going to have them shooting us like they did that lady who died, okay? And you say, listen, we've given you every chance that you could possibly have. We've tried everything to make you come back around to legality here, to be stand-up citizens, to care about your constituents, to listen to what the people are saying, and instead you deny the will of the people and you infringe on our rights. So therefore, we are here, and we are here armed, and we're giving you a choice. It's time for you to go. You can leave right now, or we can make you leave by putting you under citizen's arrest. And if you push back, which I'm sure they would, with their little good minions, whoever that is serving them, whether it's the cops, whether it's security, whoever, okay, then we'll have to fight about it. And that's what a patriot would do, because as our founding fathers said, the tree of liberty frequently needs to be refreshed with the blood of patriots and tyrants, right? That's what it means. It means, and in fact, I think it was Thomas Jefferson who said every 20 years, because they knew how much tyranny takes its hold on freedom and freedom-loving people. And that if you didn't do something to stand up against it, you were going to become a slave to it. And so we couldn't find people. I talked to all the heads of the militia as well, okay? I've talked to a lot of heads of militias, the Oath Keepers, Patriot Action Network, and all I get is some bogus nonsense, excuses. Oh, we'll use the next 4 years to what? To do what? To rally up people that they're going to know that we're going to have all those people on their radar, and then they're going to come for you, and by then you can't even fight back. Like, you just gave them the country. You're all excuse-making cowards, you know. And we hear all these Q followers, and they're talking about QN and this, QN and that. I never followed QN. I'm not going to lie to you, because if you're actually paying attention and you're doing research, you know, then you're educated. You know where to go for the information already.
Well, you're wrong once, you're wrong twice. I might give you some leeway. You're wrong 25 times in a row. You get what I'm saying? And then let's go back to the Capitol. These people are so naive. In your nation's capital, you have the least amount of gun rights.
I know.
You have the least amount of
Supposedly,
gun
right?
rights in your nation
Yep.
capital. Now, I don't know if you've heard about the National Assembly. There's this group that's part of one of these guys. And what I find so ironic with him, the guy I was debating, he's like, yeah, we have this group, the National Assembly. They believe in doing it through the legal routes, right? They're going to take the country back through the
I have
legal
comments on that.
Wait,
Go ahead,
wait, but let me tell you a little bit about them. So he's out in California, this gentleman, and he tells me it took us 7 years to get to 60 members in our organization, right? And then I'm like, okay, what happened? Well, last year the feds came in and busted us and put about 9 of our people in jail, and now no one wants to be a part of it. We're rebuilding. We got 6 now, right? And I'm like, I don't know how this is supposed to make me feel better, right?
I
know. Are you trying to make me feel worse, my friend?
Well, doesn't that tell you something? It tells you that you can't go at it that way, because it's not that you don't want to be legal. That's the whole point. We're the one who are constitutionalists. We've tried everything, right? We've tried to do it legally. We've tried petitions. We've tried rallies. We've tried flag waving. We've tried having our voices heard, having, all these different
we had this
events.
similar debate with a gentleman when me and you were on another show. Like, we've tried these routes. Oh, go petition your government with your grievances. You don't think that's happening? Where
Exactly.
are you? Where are these
Right.
people? Are they under a rock?
They're living under multiple rocks. They're buried under them. Yeah.
But let me tell you a little bit about this National Assembly. I don't know how much you know about the French Revolution, right?
A little bit.
That was the name of their beginnings of their revolution. They had a National Assembly. And the National Assembly is basically what started the French Revolution, is what started traditional liberal democracy, liberalism, right? That's what they literally rounded up all the religious people in the hierarchy. That was Artenet, I forget her name, the queen. They chopped her head off, and the king, right? And that was the start. They started an organization called the Cult of Reason, and they outlawed churches, right? And that was the National Assembly. And that's what these people are naming their organization, that they want patriots and right-wingers to join. And the French Revolution is the reason we're in the degeneracy we are in now. People don't know their history. If you know anything about the Civil War, we would have never won the Civil War without the French. The French financed America's Civil War. And you know what America did to the French after they financed our Civil War? When they asked us to pay them back, we told them to go kick rocks. We're not we act like we're all innocent all the time. And that's what led to the French Revolution, because we didn't pay back France. Their country went into a depression. And that's what caused. Perfect. Yeah, I know. Well, look at George Washington right after he became president. Okay, he instituted the whiskey tax, and we had the Whiskey Rebellion, right? I'm against all taxes. I believe all taxation is theft. I believe if we want to really truly change this society, we should make a society where you are able, if you're self-sufficient, to live possibly on your own. Right? We should reward self-sufficiency. But how can you be self-sufficient in this nation when you have progressive taxes, when you have property taxes? You never really own your property.
And even if you do, then you still have to pay utilities. So they're always going to track where you are. They're going to have a record of you and what you're doing. And yeah, there's no freedom anymore, and people don't want to speak up about the small things. They're scared to have conversations at the dinner table with their families, or during a holiday with their families. And that's the thing, is the cowardice has to end. The excuse making has to stop. Even my dad's generation of people, I call them the do nothing, make lovers, and make love not war people. because that's all they wanted to do. They wanted to make love, do drugs, sex, drugs, rock and roll, not war. Well, maybe there was some things you should have been warring with. I'm not saying an all-out war, but I know there was the Vietnam War and such, but maybe there was some things you should have kind of taken the torch up on and gone at, so that this world wouldn't be in the position that it's in right now. And it's the same thing with our generation today, because they're raised by those people, and most people just do the same thing as their parents, because they're just a product of their environment, essentially. And people won't stand anymore. They won't speak up. They won't stand up, and it's becoming a gigantic problem.
Well, everyone pushes this narrative that they want change, right? Nothing really changes. Okay, what they're doing right now is they're giving you social change. They're not giving you any real structural change that'll change your life for real. You want
Not
real
for
change,
the better.
right? Now listen to my change here. Listen, tell me if this is change. Outlaw all taxes, right? No more prisons unless you're a violent criminal, right? No prisons. We get in the nation of the free, we have the most people locked up in the world, right? Free most of these people. No more insurance. Insurance is a form of communism. Insurance is a form of socialism. Think about, let me explain this to you. Everyone pays the insurance company, right? The insurance company collects that money and then redistributes it how they see fit. And who they see fit. If we don't like this medical procedure, you don't get that. Right? Well,
Yep.
that sounds like communism to me.
There's a lot of communism that's trickled into our society for sure, and I'm not for any of it. But I mean, with the prison systems, I think that you have the most freedom, so people have the freedom to go do stuff where otherwise they would know they can't, or else they're going to be shot by like communist China or something. So they're like living in fear. But at the same time, you have a demoralization of our society where they've removed God from society. And when you do that and you destroy the family life, then it has a trickle-down effect that leads to more criminals, more bad behavior in general, and dumber people as well. Because if you're not right, then you're wrong, and you think everything is what it's not. And so, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things to be talked about pertaining to all that stuff you just said. But I think there's reasons for people to be in jail, and then there's also times where I think if somebody gets caught with a little marijuana a few times, that maybe they don't need to go to jail, or something like that. But
well, but let me ask you this: if we made insurance illegal, what do you think would happen to health care costs?
If you made it illegal,
it
would probably go up. You'd probably be charged a lot more, right?
Why do you believe that? If you had to pay cash for all your health care needs?
Well, because they know that you have to pay it, and you just have no choice, right? Well, so if there's any industry where you just have to pay, what do you think?
I think it would collapse. I think insurance is. I learned this from out of high school. I worked in a body shop for cars.
Yep.
Right. Guess what we did to people that came in that were making claims on insurance?
What'd you do?
They upped the price.
Well, that's the point, but I don't know. Maybe I'm not following you. But
if someone was paying cash, we lowered the price because we knew they didn't have the cash to pay it. Right? We knew the insurance.
At the same time, though,
we knew the insurance companies had the money to pay whatever we quoted them. Right? So we would quote the people making insurance claims higher. Right? So, for example, everything in healthcare, you know how much a bed costs in the hospital?
Not sure.
$10,000, $15,000, $20,000. Some of them beds. You know them scalpels and them things they use for surgery. Them tools they up. What would be the same tool if I was buying it for my house would be $25. If they're using that same exact tool, but they're using it for surgery, right? Yeah. They charge them $250. And it's because insurance is paying for everything, right? Insurance is the number one reason for inflation. Right.
Okay.
How often do you have where your insurance company comes to you and say, "Hey, Mr. Baldassari, guess what? We got good news this year. Your premiums are going down and your rates."
I don't have health insurance.
Yeah, well, I'm saying any insurance. How often do you have it where they
No, they don't.
come?
They don't decrease my insurance rates. I'll tell you that.
Right,
Yeah, they just increased my mortgage and my county taxes, which made the
right.
mortgage payment go up
Well,
because of Joe Biden and the left.
where was your constitution when they implemented Obamacare and forced you to have insurance or you
I
pay
know.
a
I
penalty?
didn't. I know. I hear you, man. I was very against that, and now they're trying to do that and then some. They're trying to say that you have to have gun insurance. That's a new thing that they're trying to
Yeah,
propose.
yeah.
I don't even know what that's about.
That's about making it more cost
Expensive.
expensive
Yeah.
for
Right.
people to own a gun. They're
Exactly.
they're just driving it up through the use of
Hmm.
insurance,
Hmm.
right?
That's true.
Insurance takes. How many times have you? Okay, states have legalized the right for people to smoke marijuana. Do you know how many jobs still don't allow you to smoke marijuana?
A lot of them.
Why?
Because the federal law, I think, is what they go by. Is that right?
Insurance. It's
Insurance.
their insurance companies. Their insurance companies are the ones telling them, we don't want you having employees that smoke pot. Liability, right? Let's say someone's on a scaffolding and they drop something and hit someone in the head, then they go get drug tested and they have marijuana in their system, right? Then the guy that got hit in the head could sue saying, you know,
Yeah.
he
Okay.
was high.
Gotcha.
You get what I'm saying? They don't want
Right.
that
Right.
liability, right? But
Yep.
insurance will take away people's rights more than government. If you look right now, federal government is taking people's rights less than state and local government. Uh, you got your state and local government that are forcing the mask mandates, forcing the shutdowns. It's not your federal government.
Yeah.
They're not doing nothing.
Well, the feds are coming too now. I mean, especially with Biden in control. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of problems to go around at both the federal and state level. But that's part of that argument that you always hear the people on the right making. Oh, we get a run for local office, do it at the local level. And I'm like, don't you understand that fixing elections? Don't you understand that corruption has already reached the local levels too? Like honestly, like you can continue to make excuses and think that you're going to run and they're going to just let you win when they won't even let you work or speak on the internet. Like when they censor your campaign all over social media, how do you think you're going to compete and win?
Well, there's this libertarian precept out here that it's okay for private organizations or private individuals to violate people's rights, right?
I know
You
it's
hear it all the
nonsense.
time. You hear it all the time. Oh, you can't say that on YouTube. They're a private platform, right? And then I'll be debating with someone and I'll say,
That's not even what the argument's about, though.
well, what about my internet service? They're a private company. Could they essentially come to me and then say, "We don't like what you're saying on the internet. We're just going to disable your internet service." And at the same time, these companies are receiving billions and billions of dollars in taxpayer grants and stuff like that. It's not like they're not taking our tax money. You get what I'm saying? They're taking your tax money. These aren't technically private companies. They're welfare. They're on government welfare, a lot of these companies, right?
Yep.
Now,
And
now
then,
go ahead.
no, I was going to say, and then with social media, it's about Section 230. If they're a neutral
Yeah,
public forum, they have to be neutral to be protected from being sued. Okay?
right,
They're not
right.
neutral. Is there any
Yeah,
argument about that? Like, they're not neutral.
that's what the idiot
Let's
said to me.
remove it and sue them.
Would you let someone come into Home Depot and start preaching politics? No, idiot. That's not the fucking. There's a time and place. But if you're setting up a video platform where everyone can hop on here, and that's the point of YouTube, is to give everyone a voice.
But at the same time, why doesn't a person have the right to go into Home Depot and have free speech? Right? Isn't
Well,
isn't isn't there the Constitution that's like the supreme law of the land?
right,
Like, I
right.
mean, and again, this is why we got to get back to our roots because
Right. But see, if I'm in Home Depot, I can't not hear you. Okay, if I'm on YouTube, I can just block your channel. You get what I'm saying?
Well, you could walk out of Home Depot.
Right. But see, Home Depot has a right to force that person out because he could affect business. You get what I'm saying?
But only if he's doing something wrong, and they'd have to prove he's
Yeah.
affecting business or that his free speech. I think that's a big legal issue right there in itself. But yeah,
but what I'm saying is these people's comparisons are apples and oranges. They're
no, I
not.
got you.
They're straw man arguments. You get what I'm saying?
Right.
It's a straw man, you know. But what do you think? Where do you think the Republican Party is headed now without Donald Trump? And do you know? I think we're in a literal civil war for the party. I think that the right sort of made a deal with Trump where Trump was like, hey, we're going to win. So you give me some leeway on gay marriage and gay rights and stuff like that, and I'm going to deliver the wall. And I'm going to deliver less regulations on business. That's how I felt. Well, now I think the right have woken up, especially the religious right, with the COVID and us being locked down, not even being able to go to church. I think the right has woken up, and I think we're going to move towards more of a principled approach. What do you think?
You know, I look to the Bible as a compass of the direction we're headed, and as you know, in the Bible, in the beginning, right, God created, and then the Book of Revelation is the end. So we already know what's going to happen. People say that's crazy. It is kind of crazy to think of that we have that information written in a book. But if God created everything, why couldn't He give that message to His disciples and people that wrote the Bible to let us know? So where we're headed is it's down a dark road. You know, you're going to see these Christians keep making excuses and pretending that they're more holier than thou, I think, and pretending that they cannot be bold, even though the Bible teaches to be bold. You can make excuses for letting evil just come and conquer everything that you hold dear to your heart, you know, instead of being watchmen on the wall. Now, the Bible says to be a watchman on the wall. If you're going to be a watchman on the wall, what good does it do to stand there and watch only? I don't think the Bible's telling you to just watch on top of the wall and say, oh, look, here's the enemy. They're coming. Oh, look, we let them in. Oh, look, they've taken over our city. That's what's happened. And because of Christians, I'm going to blame the church for this, because the Christians aren't preaching the right message because they're too scared to. Because, you know, they preach the message of love and not hate. And that's kind of a political thing when you think about it. And the Bible is all about love. Jesus and God, all about love. Love is the most important thing. Love your enemies, love your fellow man, love your neighbor, you know, no doubt. But it also talks about there being a time for love, a time for hate, a time for war, a time for peace, a time for everything under the sun. And if there's a time for everything under the sun, then what time is it right now? You have to ask yourself. You have to look at the situation. So where are we headed as a Republican Party? I think the Republican Party is turned into the Democrat Party. I think the Democrat Party is turned into a Communist Party. That's why people are calling for a Patriot Party, but that does nobody any good. And these delusional people, as you said, who are living under a rock or multiple rocks, don't seem to get it. And they keep talking about 2024 and this Patriot Party, and they're rooting on Trump like he's a savior. Although I don't buy into that whole conversation too much, because that's a left-wing narrative. I don't think they necessarily look at Trump as a savior. But some of these people kind of idolize him too much, where they should be looking to God. They're looking to Trump or some man to save them, you know, from these bad, wicked people that are ruining our society. Trump is one person. Trump can't do everything. He proved that. He's done a ton, but he fell short because, you know why? Everybody just said, hey, Trump's going to take care of it. And they did nothing. Or they waved the flag and they look, we went out and we waved flags. Look at us, we're standing for freedom. That's not standing for freedom. And I've waved flags for the best of them, but there's a time and a place. So I don't think we're headed in the right direction. I think people refuse to accept this message that we're both saying here and wake up to it. You talk about being woke. Who's woke anymore? They're woke to all these lies, you know? It's a shame. So I would like to be more positive. That's the other thing.
Well, we have a comment here now. He says, we know the elections are rigged. Who in the world is going to vote in the midterms? Right?
Yeah, well, you can't blame him for saying that, but I don't think the answer is not voting. I think the answer is draining the swamp and fixing the system. The system is fine. It's the people who have corrupted it, who are corrupt, that are the problem. You need to drain the swamp. go back to our roots, go back to the constitutional republic and the voting system that's worked for so long to make this country great.
All right, he's got another question. In your views, how can we start turning this around?
You need God, okay? The first thing you need is God at the helm. When you get God, you'll be able to handle things better. You'll pray to him and you'll get wisdom. You will have the ability to decipher things better, to have direction. So that's kind of a general answer, but more specifically, you look at what happened in the Bible. How did people confront problems in the Bible when there was wicked things? Did David just cower like the rest of the Israelites, or did someone have to stand up to Goliath? You know, people don't like to hear that, but I would say we have to stand up to Goliath.
I've thought about this, and you worked for a bank. The problems are insurance, banking, and politics. Right. And I've prayed about this long and hard. And you want to hear something interesting? Let me ask you something. In the Bible, what does it say about Babylon? What is your feeling about Babylon in the Bible?
Well, Babylon was kind of, in a short way of putting it, the world's way of sticking their middle finger to God and trying to build a place up to God, right?
So you don't have a good opinion of Babylon.
No, neither did God. Right?
All right. You want to hear? Guess where the first insurance contract originated?
Must have been Babylon.
That's right. Insurance started in Babylon.
Yeah. Hey, dude. Goodness. No, did you know that they're building a Tower of Babel for a building in New York, I think it was? For Amazon?
Oh, God.
Wasn't it New York? I think it was New York. It was just in the news the other day. Yeah. It's insane. These people are so evil.
They don't even hide it, bro.
They're like, let's build Babylon. Let's rebuild Babylon and Tower of Babel. Like, are you serious right now? Really? You're that wicked, huh?
Yeah.
So, if I could build on something I said. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I get going, man. I get going, I know. YT Most Censored said, Americans have become too complacent. We need to start taking responsibility for our country. That's what I was going to get at, brother. I mean, if we want to fix the country, it's not all just fighting Goliath only. I mean, it's the little battles that lead to the war being won, right? And those little battles, people don't even want to fight, or they got to stop thinking the way they think. Like my aunt and everybody that's starting to see what's going on and realize I was right for the past 10 years and I wasn't some kook. They're like, what do we do? They feel powerless. I'm like, that's your first problem. You think you're powerless. You think you're weak. You think there's nothing you can do, that you're insignificant and that you're powerless. Okay? Meanwhile, the left is empowering people, okay, with fake news narratives and making them think they're more powerful than they are, making them flip out. But, I digress. So people need to start standing up at work. When they send an email, like they used to do at the banks to me, and they say, we're having LGBT month. Everybody got to celebrate. We're going to have a big celebration for it. You say, I want you to send an email celebrating God and Christ. You say, I want to see that email. And you push back and you say, I want these emails kept out of my inbox. You're violating my right. You're not showing any respect for me and my lifestyle. You're not tolerating me. I'm an employee here too, And if you get fired, you get fired. Then out of the ashes comes prosperity, okay? This is what I'm trying to do with my business. It's not going to be easy. But the Bible says, and I know I'm ranting a little, but bear with me. The Bible says to sell. Remember that story of the guy who had all that money and God told him to sell everything he owned and pick up his cross and follow Jesus?
Come with me.
Okay?
Right.
That's what you need to do. That's what I did. I lost everything. I lost my job. I had to sell everything that I owned and have come down here with one carload of stuff, okay? And I'm not propping myself up. I'm saying we need more people to do that. It's not about me. It's about you. It's about all of us together doing what's right every chance we get and having the conversations, the tough conversations. Because if you have those conversations, you make progress, true progress, Otherwise, you stay stagnant and you get conquered.
Yeah, well, that's why they want that. See, Trump is a sacrificial lamb for these people. They believe if we get rid of Trump and the Trump supporters, we're gonna all get together and hold hands and sing "Kumbaya," right? But the
All the way
problem
to
is with
hell.
they always got to have the next sacrifice. You get what I'm saying? Because the problems never get solved, right? Trump's gone, and just the thought that Trump is the worst president. We've had way worse presidents. Now, you said Bush. Like, I liked Bush initially, and now I can't stand Bush. Right? I
I
think
didn't
Bush
like the
was one of.
Patriot Act. Patriot
Yeah,
Act
right.
was a big problem.
But to think that Trump was the worst president that deserves to be like imprisoned is just beyond me. And it just shows how corrupt they truly are. See, they believe like if they take down Trump, that we're all going to get to. Like, for example, look when they blew up his old casino the other day. They make this big deal about it, like it's some religious. Oh, they charge like seats that went for like thousands of dollars to go watch Trump's casino be demolished.
These people are sick in the head. They're sick puppies.
Like,
Yeah,
who
they're not
would
well.
pay like $10,000 to watch Trump's casino?
Mentally disturbed people. That's who.
All right,
I mean, dude, these people, you can't make this stuff up.
I know. We got 4 minutes left. I like to keep it under an hour.
Okay.
Tell us where you can be found, what you're doing, and any last thoughts.
Yeah, so I'm not on social media much anymore. I have a Telegram channel. You can look me up on Telegram. Look up American Patriots for God and Country. There's also a chat you can join. But so join that, and that's where I can share news and information. Occasionally, you'll see a video of me ranting like I do, but it's not just ranting; it's fact. Anyway, check out AmericanPatriotsApparel.com. Type save 15 at checkout if you want to save 15%. Got about 1,200 products right now. I wish I could tell you I'm going to be somewhere else than that right now, but they're silencing us. And so we need you people to stand up and do something to stop these people. Everybody has to start doing their part and pushing back. And if we don't, it's only going to get worse from here.
All right. That is Stephen Baldassari. All right. I'm going to put you in the background. Stay on, though. We'll chat a little offline, and I'll close it up.
All right. Thanks, people.
Well, thank you for joining us. You have all been disavowed.